Hey everyone, how are you? Welcome to the Soul Truth Conversation Show. We're on episode 14. Yay! So we're growing. We are growing this channel. Welcome. My name is Claire Chapman. So I'm your host for today. And I'm working out on the online space. I'm not going to call myself a coach or a healer or any of those kind of labels right now. But what I do is help women to fully own their truth, like really step into all of who they are so they can get what they want their way. And today we have an incredible guest on, the beautiful Norah. And Norah, she's incredible. Norah is a worldwide hypnotherapist and soul-led success coach, supporting her clients to design and reach their goals in life, which I absolutely love this. Integrity, honesty, passion, and self-belief are core values of Norah's, which she integrates into all aspects of her life and business. Norah combines life and business coaching, hypnotherapy, and other healing modalities so that her clients can connect with what they truly want from life. This sounds so similar. Designing their goals, taking inspired action, and finally seeing the results that they desire by moving through the blocks, the limiting beliefs, and having those things that have previously held them back. Norah has an ongoing passion towards personal and professional development to coach people to connect with themselves at a soul level in alignment and joy. And I absolutely love this. Like, I feel the more people that I'm interviewing, like the more we are speaking the same sort of message. And I think it's beautiful that we have so many of us out there on the online space or in person to really help connect people back to the truth of all of who they are. And so our work is so needed, and the gifts like that, you have, I have, and other people that we've interviewed, we're all coming back to this soul-led. Like, we all know who we are at this soul level, like we know it, but we can't always step forward into that. There are these things that block us. So welcome, Norah. Thank you so much for being with us today. Just want to say thank you.
Hi, Claire. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to get on here and have a chat with you today, actually, because I know we're connected in the online space, but we've never actually sat down and had a cuppa. So this is nice.
Exactly. And this is the whole point, like the conversations. Like, I just love talking with people. Activates me. I'm sure it will activate you as well. It will activate the listeners, anybody watching us on the channel here. So that's why I love to just have these conversations. And truth for me has been a big word. I see it on the online space. Like, you can see people's energy when they're not being authentic, when they're not stepping into the truth, when they're trying too hard in business, in life. And so I just love to like rip all that off. It's like scratching foundation off your face.
I love it.
It's like, let's get back to the real raw truth. And like I was saying with Norah before we even hit the record button, it's like, I never know what's going to come through on these. There is no pre-script. There is no questions that I have pre-record, pre-set out. I just love and believe that whatever's meant to come through in the moment is going to be exactly what either we need for ourselves. Half the time we do this stuff, we don't realize that we need it for ourselves, but then also for the listeners. And yeah, Nora's in the UK, I'm in the UK, so we're sat down with a cuppa this morning.
I'm actually in Ireland.
Oh, you're in Ireland?
Oh. In Ireland with a UK accent.
Amazing. So yes, we're on the same time zone, let's put it that way. And normally
we are
late in the afternoon or in the evening, because a lot of my audience is in the States. So it's lovely to sit down in the morning with a cup of coffee and have a great chat with wonderful Norah here. So Norah, I would love for you to just come on, tell us a little bit about your story. Who are you? Let us get like you say, we know each other on the online space, but it's different when you're connecting like this. I'd love to get to know a little bit more about you. Like, what's your story? We all have a story. Love for you to just share that.
It's funny when you're talking there about the rawness, right? I think what much of society is missing is actually that rawness, because we've become so afraid to actually feel that we are using whatever we can to cover that up, through the nightly bottles of wine and smoking, Netflix, box sets, anything rather than feel. Yeah. And that rawness really, for me, boils down to allowing yourself to feel, because once you do that, the rest will flow, the rest can come through you. So I was your natural candidate for ignore everything that I can. I was never going to feel anything, actually from a very young age. And when I was a teenager, I was quite wild. Loved not going to school, and I was just just pretty wild. And a bit of a party animal. And school was the last thing that I wanted to be doing. Even though I loved life experiences and growth and all of that, school was definitely not for me at the time. And alcohol was a big part of that, the party lifestyle. And then when I had my first child back in 2003, I realized, of course, everything changes when you have kiddies. I realized, okay, I don't want to live this life. Now, obviously I'd calmed down somewhat, but I knew that I was in a bubble. I'd protected myself so much from feeling anything that I didn't actually even know where to start. So that led me on a journey of, okay, I want to do better for my children. But, actually it wasn't so easy to just stop all of the mechanisms that I had built up over the years. So you can probably fast forward another 10 years before I actually started getting really serious about change. And, I'd gone back to college and done all of the things, and I was doing medical secretary work, and I was just still in this bubble. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? My kids are in childcare, so I can come here, work for somebody else. And, it just wasn't lighting me up. So through all of these experiences, I ended up going to see a hypnotherapist to give up smoking, because I was still trying to, do better and move forward and all of that, and tried 100 times to give up smoking and just always went back on them, even though I hated them. So I went to the hypnotherapist and walked out of there absolutely a non-smoker, Claire. And I was like, okay, what the heck has happened? Because I'm stubborn, and even going in there, I was like, he won't be able to get me to stop smoking, because I didn't think he would. So I was fascinated. Then I started searching online. What happened? How did he just get me to stop smoking in like an hour? And the more I read about hypnotherapy and the power of the mind, and I mean, it all snowballed. I mean, I'd literally been knocking on the wrong door for years and years and not knowing the way. So started looking into hypnotherapy, and then trained as clinical hypnotherapist, and it was all snowballing. Gave up alcohol, of course, I'd given up smoking, began to work with a coach, which was really fundamental. That there was two parts of massive moments of transformation. One was definitely that hypnotherapist and what happened in that office, because it opened me up to the world of the mind. The second was definitely working with a coach, because I mean, that put everything into perspective. And I did more in 4 months with that lady than I had done in 14 years, knocking on the wrong door before that. And I guess ever since I've gone through that, what I want to do with people I work with, I started off as a hypnotherapist, helping people to give up smoking. And I guess as I transformed, my work has transformed. And really what I want to do is help to save people lots of years of knocking on the wrong door and not knowing exactly where they're going, and to help them to feel, to allow that rawness, as that you talk about, Claire, and not be so afraid of it, because that's what magic is, isn't it?
100%. And you just took me back. Even I think it was either Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I woke up and I could just feel like my nervous system just was going into overdrive again, and mine was like, why, you've just woken up, like life's good right now, what? And I didn't want to try and work it out or make it mean something wrong or anything like that. And the mind was just going like literally 100 miles. Like there was just so much that I always love to become the witness. Like over my journey, I've managed to just become the witness, so be able to almost remove myself and then just look at that side of me, just to sit there and watch. And I could just hear all this stuff, and I just had to go, whoa, let's just back out of the mind. The body was going into overdrive, and it was like, whoa. And I had no choice but just to, there was no, we could call it surrender, we can call it leaving back, whatever it was. And like you say, just feel. And I was like, well, I know there's nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong that I'm laid in my bed, beautiful morning. We don't really have many plans. We've had a busy couple of days. Like I knew that I was good. So it's like, okay, so now all I need to do is just feel this. And just to take that time and go, wow, the body's almost like, you know, sparking up, and the brain's just got like all these racing thoughts, and it was just like, ah. But it was really good fun to witness it. Do you know what I mean? It's really good to be the observer of yourself, the observer of the mind, the observer of the body and what was going on. And honestly, the minute like I just sort of, you almost like sink into it. It's almost like quite blissful, isn't it? You just sink in, be the observer. There's nothing to do. You just feel it. And then it just sort of like, oh, just sort of dissolved and was like, huh, this is nice. And it kind of all just went, because I think what happens, I don't know about you or your clients, what you realize is we're so good as humans to make things mean something. So my mind racing, if I'd have made that mean, I don't know what I'm doing, or, you know, I'm going mad, I'm going crazy, or it shouldn't be like this, and the body going, oh my God, what's wrong? The nervous system seems to be firing up. What's wrong? You know, we make it mean something, and that's where it takes us down into this big rabbit hole. And I think when we can stop making that mean anything, like you say, just allow ourselves to just feel this experience, what's going on, just feel that. And it almost becomes quite exciting. I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm really weird when people like going into these deep beliefs and we're moving all this stuff out, and I'm like, yeah, I love it. It's almost like,
yeah, no, and it's so it's fascinating, isn't it? And it's really powerful as well to be able to look at it that way, and to actually, yes, get out of our own heads and to look at it objectively and say, you know, this is okay. You know, it doesn't have to mean anything. You know, sometimes, you know, our bodies or our minds need rest, and that's okay. And it can stop a lot of heartache, you know, because when you're thinking there, if you'd have ran with those thoughts, God knows, you know, the next 24, 48 hours, I mean, we lose ourselves, don't we? And I still
like,
do sometimes. Let's not pretend I'm angelic here, because no, I still lose myself. But yeah, I think it's about it's continuous growth, isn't it? It never ends.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to make. What you were saying then is like, you know, we've been doing this work for many years. We've transformed our lives. The modalities that we've used transformed our lives. And so I think, you know, especially out on the online space, we think that people are healed, they're so polished, there's, you know, oh, when I have all the money, when I have all the clients, when I have the business, when I have this in my life, when I've got the relationship, when I've got this, like, then everything will be okay. And I think it's really important, like we were talking about raw and truthful, and it's almost being real. Like if you think when you've got all the money that, you know, all the fear and everything disappears, then hello, I'm just going to burst your bubble. If you think when you've got the business, like that you no longer feel fear, or your nervous system doesn't kick in, or your mind doesn't go into hello, we're just going to burst that bubble as well. And you can put on the end of it, whether it's relationship, money, business, clients, purpose, whatever the thing is, like you say, there is nothing wrong with myself or with you, even in that moment where I'm laid in bed and the body's going into it and the mind's taking over and trying to do whatever it is it's trying to do. Like that is very normal. That is normal, that at some stage, as you're still going through, as you're still going on your journey, and those things will happen. And I think for me, and I'd love to hear your point, is the minute that I could accept that, not everything is going to be perfect when you have the business, when you have the money, when you have the relationship, like you're still going to wake up some days. Is not very often, but you know, you're going to be maybe in fear or a little bit of doubt or overthinking about something. Like that still happens because we are still human. Like I want to make it really clear, that is very normal for you to have those moments. Those moments aren't going to go away. The more that you're growing and evolving, the more you're heading into the unknown, the more you're pushing your human into those like the next bit of fear or the next little bit of healing that needs to be moved through is like very normal. When you can accept that, you kind of go, oh yeah, you know, like we were saying, it doesn't mean anything. So I'd love to hear from you, like when you're moving through and you're growing, you're evolving and you're living, like, do you still have moments where you're like either overthinking or the fears kept sticks in, or maybe there's a bit of doubt or something that goes on, or is life just perfect for you? You wake up every morning full of confidence and you know what you're doing.
Life is not perfect. But what's the old saying? Well, there's perfect in every day. Oh gosh, corny. So I think the thing is, it's funny this week because like for the last 4 years I've been going through a divorce, right? It's so hard to get divorced in Ireland. It's an absolute, it's a joke, right? And at the beginning of the divorce, it's just a perfect example. I said to myself, now this is knowing, you know, that you have to be present every day. So I'd done all that work. And yet at the beginning of this divorce, I said, do you know what? When I am divorced, things are going to just, the pressure will be off, the stress will be gone. So I just have to put up with the stress for now and then it will be gone. You know, fast forward 6 months, still not divorced. Fast forward another 12. I was like, well, definitely next year we're going to be divorced. And what's happened is in the last 6 to 8 months, I actually had to reevaluate what I'd caught myself up in, because I had taken this journey which had just stretched out to over 3 years at that stage, and I was almost living in, you know, I'd gone back to when I was much younger, and I would say I believed everything would be better when this happens, you know, when you meet someone, when you move, when you do the thing, and I'd gone back there without even realizing it, quite in a tricky sort of way. But you know, we're given lessons, you know, and you'll keep getting the same lesson over and over until you listen. And when I got that realization, I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. So I am the one blocking all of this because I'm in that state of mind.
Yeah.
And then I started to change, you know, go back and revisit the work that I'd done way back in the beginning, and revisit the books, and stuff was coming back to me. And I was like, oh, I just really got caught down that rabbit hole of thinking. So I think, you know, we never fully get there. You know, we're always given lessons, and when we pass through a set of lessons, and yes, we've dealt that, there's going to be more lessons because we're still growing. And if we're not growing, you know, we're disintegrating.
Exactly.
So there is growth in every single day. And I'm still not divorced, by the way, but the difference with what's going on now with the divorce is it means nothing to me.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter if I'm divorced this year or 5 years down the line. Why did it matter in the first place? You know? Yeah. So it's, and now I know that the divorce is going to be imminent, because now there's nothing attached to it anymore.
No resistance.
And that's, and it's the same with anything. I know most people probably apply it to business. You know, the more we attach ourselves to getting clients, or, you know, having the perfect message or having the perfect marketing, I mean, that's when you can be damn sure things are going to start going wrong.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm amazing at manifesting, and I have to keep coming back to that sometimes. And I'm like, you know, how do I manifest? And people are like, you should teach how you manifest. You manifest everything. I'm like, I don't even know how I do it. And the only thing I ever come back to is just, well, I know what I want, but I just don't ever need it. So it comes in, and it gets to be that simple. I think when you attach, like you say, a need, you needed to be divorced because then on the other side you could live your life and everything was going to be great. So there was a need in there. And like you say, all the time there's a need, you're actually just pushing everything out. When you're adding these attachments is when you can take off the attachment, take off any meaning what divorce would mean, and come back to this neutral place. it's just like, then that's like where the floodgates open. And it was what I did with my relationship, you know, when I also got divorced nearly 8-9 years ago now, just not in a marriage that was suited for where I was going. And so yeah, got divorced. And I remember those moments, it was hell, like we went through hell. And so I send you so much love. Because I know what it's like. But yeah, when you were detach that need, like, so I'd gone through this marriage breakup, and previously, very similar story to you. Not drugs, I never did drugs. Drink, partying, sex, whatever I could do that gave me some form of expression without actually expressing who I was or looking at who I was. So those were my cover-ups, very similar. And then when I had this marriage breakup, you know, went on a few dates and stuff, and it never really worked out. And I was like, I am done with men, like, for now. I don't need a man right now. I felt like I was a single mom in the marriage anyway. We had 2 young kids. And it was just like, well, I can deal with the kids. I deal with the house. I pay for everything right now. Like, do you know what? I do not need a man. And then I remember sitting there one Saturday evening, and the kids were young. They were in bed by like 7 o'clock. And I was like, is this my Saturday night? Is this what it's going to look like now for the rest of my life? Saturday night on your own, kids are in bed at 7. And I worked for an engineering company, and all the guys were like, oh, you need to do online dating. I was like, never going to do that. And then I remember sitting there and I was like, did a quick profile, like, bing, sent it off. But I have very clear intentions. Like, I don't need a man. And if this guy is not like 100% of what I want, then I'm not in for it. And everybody was like, oh my God, you're never going to find that. You need to work at a relationship. It's not always going to be 100% perfect. You just want what's in the movies. And I was like, you're right, I bloody do. Like, that's what I want. But because there was no need attached, I didn't need a man to keep me. I didn't need a man to look after my kids. I didn't need any of that. I went on a 12-hour date with Simon, and we've been together 7 years, you know, engaged, all come together. And it was just, and everyone says, you're so lucky. And it's like, no, it's because I just made it very clear what I wanted. And I didn't need it. If I never had that, kind of didn't matter. Like, my life was still good, but obviously it just got more expansive and stuff when I am with Simon, you know. So I love what you say. Yeah, it's disconnecting that. And I think the word that really resonates for me is that need. Like, you needed to be divorced. No, you don't need to be divorced. Mm-hmm. So it just like then opens up the floodgates and things start to move through. So yeah, anybody listening right now, if you're looking at your life and you're not getting the things that you want, just check, what are you making that mean? What will, whenever you have the thing, whether that's relationship, business, money, clients, like, what are you making that mean? How do you think that's going to make you feel? Because I tell you what, it won't. It won't. It's like, come back to you, come back to who you are, and disconnect that need. Like, I work with multiple six figures clients, 7-figure clients, and first of all I was like, why are they coming to me? Like, they've got all this money, and they're like, yeah, I've got all this money, but I'm not happy. And it's like, okay, I get that, because they're not coming from the inside. So how does talk to us a little bit about, like, I love learning. I'm a line 1 on human design. So I'm like, tell me all the things, learn all the things. Like, how does hypnotherapy actually work? Now, I've had hypnotherapy for myself, I think, once I had it. But because you're awake, it's just like your normal, you know, they don't kind of put you to sleep or anything like some of these myths that come up. It was almost like, what are you doing? Like, what goes on when you're doing the hypnotherapy?
Well, you know, changing your mindset, you know, you have to access the subconscious, and to access the subconscious, you do that through repetition or hypnosis. So often, or shock, you know, a big shock obviously that's how we get a lot of fears in our subconscious as well. But with hypnosis, it's actually really simple. If you can relax the client, then you can access their subconscious. That's literally how simple it is. And then once you access their subconscious, you feed the subconscious suggestions of improvement that the client wants. So, you know, as a non-smoker, it would be giving them a script around non-smoking. So the thing that goes wrong then in those sessions, I'm using smoking because actually it's the most powerful. I found in my work, hypnosis for smoking is the most powerful. You do it in one session. You know, if it doesn't work in one session, you know, you'd be doing well to make it work in 4 sessions, really. And that's because if the client isn't in 100% alignment with the suggestions you're giving them, they'll reject them.
Yeah.
So say you get somebody that comes because they want to give up for the wife keeps begging them to give up. It's not going to work because you're there, say, you know, giving suggestions that they really want to give up, and you know they're never going to smoke, and they're there going, oh God, you know, I'm doing this for Mary, and
Yeah.
it's not going to work because in hypnosis, the client is always fully aware of what's going on. They don't forget, nothing like that you think, you know, happens. And even on the shows where they say, you will not remember any of this when you wake up. Remember the shows years ago, and they wake up and go, oh, what did I do? But even in those instances, now they really wouldn't know what they'd done because their subconscious have been told not to remember, okay?
Right, okay.
But always it comes back after 30 minutes. Around, you know, within a couple of hours, it comes back. So you never do stuff that you'd forget long term anyway.
Right.
But with hypnotherapy, you're always fully in control.
Yes. Yeah.
I see a lot of coaches now using, you know, hypnosis recordings and stuff to support their work, and that actually works more on repetition.
Yeah.
Because you know you listen to it every day for 28 days, and it's a real short hypnosis recording, you know, 20 minutes, and actually you'd want to be doing double that to be actually effectively making fast changes at root level, which is where you would get one-to-one sessions and stuff like that. But they do all work to varying degrees.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And also about, you know, we have so many autopilot programmings in us that we're just not even aware of. Like you say, if you imagine like 24 hours in a day, how you automatically behave, and then 20 minutes like of listening to something else, is that really gonna make that big difference? Like, I love the fact, like you say, you know, coming to you, having those one-on-one deep intensive kind of stuff that comes out. So what are the breakthroughs that your clients have had? Like, I know you've mentioned about smoking and people giving up smoking. Like, a lot of the audience here are probably like entrepreneurs, business. How have you managed to help, you know, people around those sort of areas? Do you help people in their businesses? Do you help them, you know, break through some of these unconscious beliefs? I'd love to know, you know, one or two sort of cases that you've managed to actually help somebody through, and what were their blocks and what were their results after working with you with the hypnosis?
You'll find, so I'd one client that people will come to you for a reason that they don't think is the reason, if you know what I mean. So for example, a client came to me with she wanted to progress her business and it just wasn't moving in the way that she wanted to. So she absolutely came for business coaching. So I do life and business coaching.
Okay. Yeah.
So during the first session, then it became very apparent that she was, because my passion still is, okay, you got to feel. Okay, so always straight off, it's like, okay, so what's your daily routine like at the moment? And you can pick up very quickly how far along they are or not on that journey. So this lady had was very much a nightly wine drinker, and what our sessions actually started, you know, the road they went down then was I was supporting her to actually, well, you're going to take a break from alcohol altogether for 6 weeks for your business, you know. And when she committed to that, and it came up later that she'd tried numerous times actually to stop, and she hadn't had the longevity with it, because stuff comes up, you know, when you stop plastering over, then it has to come to the surface, and then we work through that. So yes, hypnotherapy is very good, but also EFT tapping is really, really nice for releasing trapped emotions, Ho'oponopono. So yes, I support them with the strategy as well, especially new businesses starting up would know me in the area here where I'm in Ireland, and they would get in touch for the strategy support, or if they're moving the business online, areas like that. But still, and they don't like to hear it, that that the real work has to be internal.
Behind the scenes. Yeah, exactly. And I think, I love doing the internal work. It literally, I almost need to like double take from it, because what I realized, a pattern that was going on for me was that I would love the breakthrough on the other side. And therefore, I ended up creating situations that needed to be healed and stuff like that, because I loved it.
Wow.
And yeah, working with the coach, and she's just like, well, what if you could just move with that? And I was like, yeah, but and then I was like, oh my God, I love the thrill of the breakthrough on the other side. And I was like, oh my God, I can see how that in itself, like, I love it. I love the breakthroughs. I love the self-awareness. I love the growth, and the, so much so. And I think there's a lot of people out there that kind of fear, we hear the words shadow work, healing, and they kind of have like these very sort of heavy sort of energies to them. But I think, and I don't know what your experience is, but like when you do move through that stuff, and here's something that's just coming through that honestly, is you don't need to go and find everything that needs to be healed. Like I had a client the other day, and she's like, well, I sat down on Saturday ready to do all my healing work for the week, and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, whoa, stop. Like, you don't go in and find this stuff. Like you were saying with the divorce and things like that, like I feel the universe brings up for you whatever you need to move through. And I use tapping as well. I love tapping. And it is just that, like, I think when you know what you want, the universe knows how to get there, but the universe knows what's inside of you that will not align with that. So it brings it to the surface, work through it, you align, and then we go through the same progress again, don't we? And I love what you're saying, like people come to you for one thing, but actually what they need or what they get is something completely different. And so yeah, anybody listening right now, if you think, right, this is it, this is why my business isn't working, like, just open up that perspective, go and speak to somebody like Norah or myself, because we then are very good at actually going, do you know what you think is this, but actually it's this over here. So I say to my clients, like, you may think you're coming for this, or you think that you want this, but actually what you need is this.
Yeah, that's it. Totally agree with what you're saying, and it's the same for me as well. I often I will need support from another coach to shine a light on what I'm not seeing, because we are in a really a busy world. We've never had so much technology and everything at our fingertips, that we literally can get so much done in 1 hour, but actually our brains are firing so quickly all the time that I think sometimes you won't just sit down half an hour and see what's happening for you. And an outside perspective is really really powerful for that. And definitely my biggest breakthroughs has been somebody else shining a light on what's happening for me, because you can see it so much clearer from the outside.
Yeah. And it's like, I always love coaches that like literally pull me up like on my BS. They're just like, nope, that's belief. That's BS. Like, no, that's what. And I guess I'm very much, I work in a very similar way with my clients. They're always like, I don't know whether to love or hate you right now, Claire, because it's just like, it's very truthful. It's very blunt, because when you do this work, you can see, can't you can tell where it's sort of like clean film over people, like, and you're just like, just take that away, that's not the truth, like, no, it's that. And so I think, like you're saying, when you're working with people, they can literally go, that's not your truth, that's a limiting belief, this is where, and they just peel back, like that sort of like very far, they just like peel it all back, and like you say, you can step forward and see the clarity on the other side is so beautiful. And we are human as well, we're allowed to be human as well.
Yeah, clarity, isn't it? Isn't the magic happens when you have the clarity, for sure.
Well, I did something the other day on Saturday. We had no plans, and I was just sort of, this was, I think, that day where I was moving through all those emotions, stuff in my body, and just allowing myself to feel it. And I was like, oh, there's no rush to get up. So I just grabbed a coffee, come back up on the bed, and I was just sort of journaling and moving from one thing to the other. And I think I was there till like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I may have even gone back again. And it's almost like I spent all day on my bed and everybody else was occupied in the family. And it made me realize actually all the different elements and emotions that I went through in that period of time. And it's like, do you know what? That takes a little bit of work to just sit and be with yourself for even that amount of time, 6-7 hours on your own in one position, just allowing yourself to move through it. And I went from like feeling amazing, then I went through all this, you know, whatever was going through, fear, doubt, whatever it is, and then it was like, oh, I'm really sort of tired and I don't want to be doing anything, and it's like, oh, I can rule the world, and then it's just like, oh my god, to give yourself that amount of time to literally not have any plans, not do anything, and just sit with yourself. It was like, holy crap, like moving through all this stuff was like, wow. So yeah, we like, and then we can't even give ourselves sometimes half an hour to sit and think or to listen to the body. That's where I was moving in the end. I was like listening to the body, and the body was like, I just need to stretch right now. Like I was aching. I was like, I've never like listened to myself for that amount of time. And it gives you that really good awareness about who you are. Like, this leads into what we were saying before we hit the record button. Like, I'm realizing at the minute I get so distracted so quickly. I'll be maybe listening to a training. I was doing this yesterday, listening to a training, pausing it because then I'm doing a logo for something, and then I'd be doing something else, and then I'm listening, and then I'm doing a message, and then I'm coming back in like this. And it's like I've had to actually own that's how I operate. That's where I'm in my flow. I'm a splenic authority human design. So I'm meant to just move with the moment. And Nora and myself, when we came on, we were like, Nora was like, I thought it was yesterday that we should have been doing this. And I was like, I know, I saw you were in the Zoom. Like I had to double check, and, you know, I had to go back through. Oh no, it is today. And yeah, just talk to us, Nora. I'd love to know, because this is the Salt Truth Show, is like, who are you in your truth? Like, you know, I've just said, yeah, you know what, I fly from one thing to the next, and I'm always like, most of the time, like, get to the right place on the right time. Yeah, I used to be an absolute control freak. So to be in this flow, I'm loving it now, but it did take a moment. Who are you? Like, how do you love to operate when you're just fully in your truth?
Oh God, Claire, I'm going to let it all hang out here.
Yeah, let it all hang out.
Well, let me tell you, I'm an absolute creative mess. And yeah, I have never really had full control of anything in my business. I'm just being very, very honest. You know, I battled in the beginning, it was accounts. Give me anything but accounts. And then, you know, over the years, I forced myself to get on top of accounts. But then, you know, something else will fill that vacuum, because I am just not meant to be organized. I'm just not meant to be organized. And actually, I've always been so all over the place. I'm actually been going through the process of being tested for ADHD at the moment, because, I mean, it's way out of control. But having said all of that, if you work with your gifts, then nothing is ever really out of control. I find I'm only out of control when I try and be this structured, you know, beautiful, color-coded, spreadsheety sort of person, because that's just not me. And I own that. You know, when I came on this morning, I was like, I thought it was yesterday. Yeah. I really did think it was yesterday. And I'm always last minute, last second. Yeah. But I know that I can pull it out of the bag that way.
Oh, it's so similar.
And that's just how it is. And rather than saying you should have prepped for the last week for this challenge, you know, I'm running a challenge next week, and literally yesterday I sat down to put the plans in place for it. I couldn't even remember the name of the challenge. Now, I know that sounds really irresponsible, but actually I don't remember the name of the challenge, but I know exactly the results I'm going to bring these ladies through in that challenge. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah.
Oh, it's a great subject that we're getting onto. I'm like, oh my god, we should start here and do a whole nother session, but we're coming to it because this is really on my heart right now. Because, and I did a post, or I'm doing a post, like, even that I can't remember if I posted it yet. Is it sat in my phone? Like, I have no idea. but saying like, you know, I literally got real with myself during the other day, during this session to reflect, because I'm moving through some stuff at the minute about how you work with your cycles, like as well with your menstrual cycle. And I've never done that stuff before. And when you're in your like first week in your bleed, like that's a very much sort of like a relaxing, releasing, reflecting time. So it makes you slow down. Half the time you don't want to bust through anyway. During that time, you're like, oh, I just want to like chill out for a bit, you know, allow yourself to sink into that. And when we're controlling and in the masculine, we're like, no, don't. And I remember saying this to my girls, like, you don't let this stop you. You can still move, you can still do this stuff. So I'm undoing some of that conditioning. And I thought, right, okay, on this week, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to reflect. And so I started to reflect through, and I was like, where am I getting stuck? What's draining me in my business right now? And it was like trying to create the right content, trying to get the message right, trying to organize my Instagram profile so that it all looks beautiful. And what that was actually doing was blocking the flow. Like when you get really truthful with yourself, and I believe this is where freedom comes from, when you own, like you were saying, this is why I say, like, I love women owning all of who they are. When you own your truth, that you're not organized, that you don't prepare so much, you just do it in the moment. When, you know, I was like, okay, I don't want all these flashy graphics, I don't want launch systems, I don't want all this stuff that I've been taught. And here's the real scary thing is you see all the people that are successful in businesses making the millions, and they're doing everything that you really don't want to do. You kind of question and go, who am I to be able to say otherwise? So and I love that. Like if we just took this morning, I'll give my version, perhaps you can give your version. So I did the school run and I came back. I was almost scammed, by the way. Oh, that got my nervous system going. I had somebody on the phone saying about, you know, I was due taxes and I got this warrant out for this arrest. And I was like, oh, I was in the car. So I just hit the hide button. So I couldn't really see any of the numbers because I was driving, and I got home and something was like, nah, it doesn't sound right. So I came in, spoke to Simon. I said, got a woman on the phone. He was like, it's a scam. And she hung up. But my little nervous system, so I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit and have my coffee for a minute. And then I was talking with Simon and he was like, you doing your show in a minute? I was like, yeah, 9:15. And so I sat there, and bearing in mind we were doing this today at 9:40. At 9:25, I was like, okay, I must go upstairs now. Just do my hair. Oh, I clean my teeth. Oh, I haven't even looked at Norah's bio by now, so I have no idea what Norah does. And here I am interviewing, and I've just been really honest because I think there's going to be a lot of women that are going to resonate with this, a lot of people that are going to resonate with this. And I think over time, like we've made ourselves wrong for being like this, and when actually this could actually be your truth, this could be your creative flow. So 9:25, and I'm like, well, I will go into Zoom a minute, I'll get that up just in case you're coming in early. Right now I need the bio. Oh, let me just go and do a bit of, I don't know, touch up on the face for a minute, come back, and I think I've got like 5 minutes to go, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to text my daughter's friend's mum because that's going on at the weekend. Oh yeah, my son, yeah, he might be doing forest school tomorrow night. Let me just see. And I've got like 2 minutes before we're about to hit the go button. And I'm like, yeah, let me just message them, see if I can get them into the forest school session. 1 minute to go. Yeah, okay, let's just have a quick look online.
Like, were we separated at birth or something? Oh my God, this is my life.
And it's just like, but I know the minute the camera hits, the minute the button goes on, with no preparation, whatever's meant to come through will come through.
Yeah.
And I think the more we get honest with ourselves, with who we are, how we operate, this is where women are going to find, well, women, men, all of us, I work with women, so I always say women, this is where you start to find the freedom, is when you own the crap out of yourself, when you really own, do you know what? I love to kind of multitask, whatever you want to call it. I love to have that flow and not be restricted. And when we don't make ourselves wrong for that, we're stepping our power. And I feel there's a live coming on. I'm gonna have to go and do a live about this, because Yeah, that's the honest truth. It doesn't make me unprepared. It doesn't make me unprofessional. Because if I tried to be professional, if I tried to be prepared for it, or it would be very controlling, I'd be out of alignment. I'd probably go into a panic mode and my creativity would have stopped. I'd have felt disempowered and momentum would have dried out. I'd love to hear your version. Yeah, what was your morning like this morning?
Yeah. My morning was, so I got up very early, purely because I knew I'd have a busy morning. So my 2 older kids are staying in with their dad at the moment. They've exams this week.
Right.
So I got onto them first thing this morning, checked that they were okay and that everything was going there, because I forget a lot of things, you see. So when something is going on for my kids, I have to get up super early to make sure that that's taken care of before I go on to the other stuff.
Yeah.
So looked after that and organised the small two with their lunches and all of that. So it was all really nice, caught up on voice notes, multitasking again, did all of that sort of stuff. And then I always go back to my to-do list from yesterday that wasn't done and start working off those. But it wouldn't even enter my head. Well, it might enter my head, but I would never do it. Prepare for this an hour before. You know, it's like, oh no, that's in an hour's time. Yeah. So then out the door at 9 o'clock for the school run. I mean, I got back probably about 4 minutes before we were due to go on. So just grabbed a water, turned on the laptop and pulled up my own bio. And yeah, because I had looked yesterday morning when I thought we were on, I checked you out to refresh my memory. So I had all that done. Right. And exactly as you say, Claire, when we start putting labels on the way that we operate, which I totally did in the beginning, you know, when they say, okay, set up a Facebook group and post 3 times a week, or do this, have theme days. This was all the stuff I was told at the beginning. Yeah. And it was absolutely working for the coach I was with. This is another coach, all great coaches, you know, you learn something so valuable from each one. But so I was doing that. And I have to say, I was like, I feel like I'm in a prison cell. I thought running my own business was meant to allow me the creativity and all of that. And actually, a few months ago, I shut down my group. I was like, and it's gone. And, you know, people say, oh, you're very brave running a business without a Facebook group. Everybody needs a Facebook group. And I was like, not me, because I wasn't getting clients, you know, enough clients from it. I wasn't enjoying it. So there was no results. Yeah. You know? And actually, I get more clients just utilizing my personal profile, which I know you're not supposed to do. But, you know, just weave it in there. Yeah. And it works really well. It works really well for me. Yeah. And the trick there is not the strategy, you know, what works, what doesn't. You know, you'll never pick that up from other people. It's actually check in and say, what lights me up? What do I enjoy doing? Yeah. And do more of that.
Yes.
With a call to action. Yeah.
100%. It's like, yeah, I closed my group down sort of 2 years ago because I learned the same thing. I think it was actually Jana Kingsford. I remember seeing her success, and she was like, I don't have a group. I don't want a group. I do everything off my personal profile. Hallelujah. Like sometimes we just need to witness that, do you know what, this can actually happen without this, like especially when you're not fully in your power yet, when you know you need that, oh, so you can do it without a Facebook group. Okay, great. I'm not going to have my Facebook group. Or you get to the pain point where you're just like, I do not want to show up in my group anymore. Like this is like, what shall I post in my group? Now I've got to post in my group. And it's just like, yeah, wherever anything feels sticky, draining, hard work, I'm like, scrap that and just do what feels good for you. And that's the energy, that's the power where you attract in your ideal client, and they are your ideal clients. Then, like you say, Claire, we'll be like separated at birth, because when I just speak my truth, when I just speak about, you know, what I love, what I experience, that's how we capture, you know, our sisters, our tribe, you know, the people who understand us. But now we're talking like for like. And so that's why there's no coincidence that we're almost saying the same messages. We believe in the same core things. We love, and it's just like, oh my God, this is like we've known each other for years, and yet we've been on what, nearly 50 minutes, you know, and yet it's like, oh my gosh, I know you, you know me, and it's like, yeah, we're like soul sisters, and that's how it works. But people are so scared. They're either working through the strategies that works for somebody else, they're doing what they think they have to do to have a business or success. And it's just like, no, when you just be you own all of who you are, you speak from your heart, from your soul, people are like, oh, like, ugh, this just comes in. So grab everything you don't like doing. If you love your group, then be in your group. My coach loves her group. She's like, I love my group, but if I had a group, no way, I'd be out.
Yeah, exactly that. It really is. And you know, I think we're all born, you know, we've all got our own fingerprints for a reason. We're all here to leave a unique print. We're all here for our unique path. You're never going to get that if you don't have the courage to stand in your power and say, well, what's mine? What's mine? How can I open up to what my purpose is, what my passion is, and do more of that, regardless of it, if nobody's ever done anything like that before.
Exactly. Yeah, I had an Akashic record reading just the other day, and what came through, apparently we all have a gift or something, or two gifts. I had these two gifts. One was expression. I'm like, yeah, of course, I'm all about self-expression. And the second one was wisdom. And people say to me, I never knew how deep you were, Claire. Like, there's so much wisdom. I'm just a channel. Like, I just channel my stuff through. And it's like, you know, sometimes I've slipped up by going, I don't always know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing, but I know when we hit the go button, it all comes through. And yet what I speak, I haven't necessarily always mastered in that moment. Like, I've mastered a lot, but some of the messages come through I haven't mastered for myself. And it was taking that ownership and just owning that the message in itself is what's meant to go out. And I've stopped myself by going, but I haven't mastered that yet. And you're saying the complete opposite to those people over there making the millions. Like, how is that even possible? Yeah. But it's like, do you know what? Just freaking own that you're a messenger right now. Sometimes you can just be the messenger. Sometimes you can be the master of it. And yet, you know, we're here on the online space. Unless you've mastered it, you can't teach it. Unless you've mastered it, you can't, you know, coach on it. And it's like, some things you'll have mastered and some things you're just the messenger that other people need to hear. And that in itself is enough. And it's like, wow, that was really interesting that I speak and then the wisdom will come. Whereas my human wants the wisdom to be there first so that I can speak wisdom. And it's like, I think for a lot of us, especially when we're doing the energetic work and things like that, it's almost like we want to see the tangible to then go and teach the intangible. And it's like, it doesn't come out that way. When you come through the intangible, the tangible is then seen on the other side. And when you're a coach, when you're here, when you're whatever it is that you are or you do, having that confidence in yourself that you get to speak from the unknown first and then make it known.
Confidence, yeah, and trust that
100%.
What's coming out needs to be heard.
I love this so much. I feel like we could talk all friggin' day.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to set up something else and have another chat, because
this is what happens when you don't prepare.
Exactly. But if we'd have prepared and I'd had questions, this conversation would never have come out in the way that it has. And it blows my mind every time I do these shows. I'm just like, do you know what? I wonder what comes out. And it's always for me, always for the interview, always for the listener. It is always for the highest good of everybody. And that's what I love. It's not just like we're sat here preaching or, you know, teaching our thing or whatever. It's just this whole beautiful, truthful, raw, like conversation. I love it.
Beautiful, truthful.
Honestly, I'm powered right up. I'm gonna have to go and do a Facebook Live or something now to get more out. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this needs to come out more today. So Norah, thank you so much for being here. I've loved this conversation. Could you please just let us know, where can any of these listeners, where can they find you? Where do you hang out online? How can they get to know you? How can they get and jump in and start chatting with you?
Yeah, well, you catch me on. I'm changing my branding. This is the whole divorce thing. So at the minute, I'm Norah Ginty coaching, but I actually saw a psychic a few weeks ago. She's like, "Oh, you've got to change your name before the divorce. Don't be waiting." So I don't know. I'm in the process of changing it back. So I will be Norah Mahony, but at the minute it's Norah Ginty, noraginty.com, Norah. And hello at noraginty.com. And I'm actually Norah Mahony on Facebook because I've already changed it. Yeah, so add me as a friend. Yeah, it all happens on my personal page. No groups or funnels.
Yeah, you are what you are.
Yeah, that's it.
I love that.
So lovely to chat with you as well today, Claire. Thanks so much for reaching out.
Oh, you're welcome. And what we do, we'll be dropping all the links where you can find Norah down in the show notes. If you're like, yeah, I want to get in touch, like go down there, find the links. And oh my gosh, this has been so yummy. I've loved it. What a beautiful morning for a Wednesday morning in a sort of cloudy UK right now. But we're all good.
Yeah,
we're all good. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. And I look forward to seeing you soon on the online space. Thanks, Norah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.